Hi there, this is Frugal Green Girl, and I thought I'd talk to you a little bit today about how to start seeds indoors. There's a lot of reasons why people like to start their seeds indoors. The first would be it's a lot less expensive than getting all of your plant starts at the garden center. A package of seeds can cost, $1 or $2 each, but plants from the garden center can cost $3, $4 each, and so when you really start adding it up, starting your seeds indoors is the most economical option available, especially if you want to grow a lot. So it's an important skill to know how to do. Another reason is you can get a really good head start. If you were to plant your seeds directly outside, like in my area, it goes from winter to summer overnight almost. If I plant them outside really early, it would get snow on them or whatnot, and then if I planted them later, once the snow finally did stop, the sun would get so strong in the sky that it would be too hot for them, especially stuff like these cold weather crop seeds that I'm planting today. So if you really want a head start on your garden, you have to be able to plant them indoors, or buy them from the garden center, like I said, but that's a lot more expensive. Another reason would be varieties. You can choose a lot of different types of seeds are available than ones that you can get just as plant starts from the garden center. So when you're starting your own seeds, you can make sure that if you want organic, you can do organic seeds. If you want non-GMO plants, you can buy non-GMO seed and such. So there's a lot more variety available in seeds than there are in plant starts. Another reason would be you can control the temperature, the light, the amount of water they get a lot better when they're inside than when you have them outside in your greenhouse or garden. So, and another reason to plant seeds outside is that it's actually a lot of fun. I've been doing it for years now, and I really enjoy it. It's therapeutic, I kind of think. So, anyway, before you get started, there are some materials you will need, and there's a lot of choices, so just choose which one will work best for you. The first would be the types of pots you're going to plant them in. There are a lot of different plastic ones available, and these are good because they're easy to use. You just fill them with the soil and they're ready to go. Unfortunately, you do have to buy them the first time, or you could use old ones that you have from the last year or whatever, but if you do choose to buy them, it is only a one-time expense, and then after that you can reuse them. And the other thing I like about them is that they don't mold like some of the other pots. Another choice would be Jiffy pots. A lot of people choose to buy those peat moss Jiffy pots for their home seed starting, just like the ones that you get in the garden center. Around here they seem to all be in Jiffy pots. Those are really easy to use, and they're convenient because you can just plant the whole pot in the garden, but they're not reusable, so if you choose to go that route, you will have to keep buying them year after year, unlike the plastic ones. And the other thing I don't like about them is that they tend to mold. Seed starting, you have to keep the plants moist all the time, and after staying that moist for that long, oftentimes they start to mold, and that's not good for the plants, and that's not good for us either. Mold can make us sick, so if you do choose to use those, just try not to let them get too soggy, or make sure you top water instead of bottom water. Sitting in all that water would not be good for them, further cause a mold issue. Another choice would be paper pots. If you want to learn how to make paper pots, check out my other video. Those are kind of like the Jiffy pots in that they will eventually mold if you use them for too long or keep them too moist. But they are really easy to use. They're totally free, and so they are a good choice if you're going to be starting stuff maybe 4 weeks ahead of time. Maybe not like for tomatoes or something, you're going to be starting 12 weeks ahead of time or something, because they will be staying wet for so long they have a better chance of molding. But those do work as well. Another choice for free containers would be like yogurt containers or other types of food containers that you can get, plastic little cups or whatever, or drinking cups, and just drill a hole in the bottom of them. Those are a good choice as well. They're inexpensive and they work pretty well, and they don't mold like the other ones. So whatever it is you choose to use, there are benefits to each, and then there are downs to each, so consider all of the options before you make your choice. The next thing to consider is the soil you're going to be using. They sell a special seed starting mix, And it's special in that it's fine, it's really loose, and it's easy for the seedlings to germinate in, and it's usually been sterilized so that none of the fungus diseases or things that sometimes attack plants are in the soil. I use regular potting soil because I don't want to pay the extra money for the seed starting mix. As my name might suggest, I am a little frugal sometimes. But if you do want to sterilize it, you can just bake it in your oven. Just put it on a cookie sheet and bake it for a little while, and it'll sterilize the soil. And the other thing about regular potting soil is a lot of times it has these sticks. So if you do choose to use it, just make sure you pick out all the larger sticks and other things that might prevent the seedlings from being able to germinate. The other thing is the seed starting depth when you go to start seeds. Every packet will say on the back of it how deep they want the seeds to be sown. This is really important because if you plant them too deep, they either won't germinate at all, or if they do germinate, they'll start to push toward the top and then they'll die because they're too far down. If you put them too shallow, too close to the top, they'll get really leggy. Part of their stem that should be underneath is going to be on the top, and they can topple over or whatnot. They tend to just not do as well that way. So using the seed depth is actually really important. But it all says the most common depths that seeds get sown at is 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inches, 1 inch, 1.5, and 2 inches. But aside from getting out your measuring tape and measuring out exactly how much is the proper depth for each hole, the way I have figured out to do this a little easier is I took a chopstick and I drew lines on it at all the common depths, and then I labeled it on the side as far as which depth is which. So when I go to plant, say, these broccoli seeds, I know that the first one is 1/4 inch. So I stick it in the soil just until it reaches that line, so I know it's exactly 1/4 inch. If I were sowing, say, pea seeds that get 2 inches, I would stick them all the way in until the top line showed. Then I know each seeds are going to the proper depth. So as far as sowing the seeds goes, it's actually simple, very, very simple. Make your little holes in all the little cells to the proper depth. You drop the seeds in. Don't sow them too thinly, and don't sow them too thickly either. If you're sowing them in pots like these where they're individual little cells, I would go with maybe like 2 seeds each. Because if you keep your seeds in the fridge, they're going to have a pretty good germination rate anyway, and you don't need to worry about them not germinating. And seeds can be saved from one year to the next. So if you just plant a few seeds and then you have some leftovers, if you keep them in the fridge all year until next year, they're going to be good until next year. So plant them, and then when they start to sprout, you're going to want to pull out the one that looks a little shorter. Like if there are 2 and one's like this and one's like that, get rid of one of them. If they look about the same, just choose which one you like better, which one has bigger leaves, or which one's more in the center, whatever it is. But seed thinning is really important, because if you let them grow together, they won't grow as well. So make sure you do that once they do start to sprout. Another thing to consider when starting seeds indoors is the amount of light that they get. There's 2 main ways that you can give them the amount of light that they want. The first one is from the sun. If you put them in a sunny window, that usually does work very well, except they start to lean toward the sun. So if you do choose to do that method, you're going to want to flip them around. If they start all leaning toward the sun, and then you can turn them around and then they'll turn and face the sun the other way, so you don't end up with a whole bunch of plants like this. The other way would be fluorescent lights. Now that's a really convenient way to give them their light, because no matter where you live, even if you don't have a sunny window or whatever to put them in, you can just stick a fluorescent light over them, and then they get the amount of light they need all the time. They don't lean over or anything, they just go straight up. The thing to consider with fluorescent lights is that they need to be really close to the seedlings. So when you put the light over them after the seeds germinate, you're going to want to keep it to where it's about 1 inch from the leaves. So you're either going to want to be able to adjust the light itself up and down as the seedlings grow, or the pot that the seeds are in. You can adjust it. It's higher, and then as they grow you can lower the pot down so that the light is always the proper distance from the plants. Another thing to consider is heat. The seedlings really like it to be a fairly warm temperature. Usually it's about 60 to 70 degrees or they won't germinate. So the best place to put them would be a nice warm place. If you have a greenhouse, that's a good place to put them if it's warm, like a solar greenhouse. Another place would be maybe a boiler room or next to a radiator. Another good place to put them is on top of the fridge. The fridge puts off a lot of heat, and it's nice and high, so that there's a lot of warmth there for them. Another thing you could use is a heat mat. They sell a lot of expensive heat mats from all the different catalogs and different things, and they can be really pricey. I picked this one up from the like a second-hand store for like $5. Now it's not as long as a full tray, but if you get 2 of them and you put them underneath there and you turn it to the lowest setting, you'll really see the seeds sprout a lot faster than if you were to just stick them on a counter or a table somewhere without the heat mat. So that is another thing to consider. I know that sounds like a lot of information, but as long as you give your seeds what they're looking for and what they want, they'll grow really well. They'll sprout and germinate, and they'll end up just as good, and you'll end up with just as high quality plants as you can get from the garden center. So thank you for watching my video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and have a nice day.